My name is Ryan Lamar, the host of the Youth Leaders in Wealth Management podcast. And today I'm joined by Brandon Hernandez, a Rutgers University alumni and currently a financial advisor at Prudential. We talk about internships, certifications, and much more career development tips that can be very useful for students that are interested in pursuing a career as a financial advisor. Please, before you get into the rest of the episode, feel free to share, like, and subscribe for more career development content for the students that are interested in the wealth management sphere. Brandon, how are you doing?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic, Ryan, and yourself?
I'm doing well. So I'm super happy to have you on and, excited to finally get you on here. We've had some back and forth getting time on the
Oh
schedule,
my goodness.
but, that's just how life goes. So, I kind of just wanted to open up the conversation, just, asking you, can you walk us through your journey from studying business at Rutgers into becoming a financial advisor at Prudential?
Yeah, absolutely. So this stems slightly before my college era. So just for a little bit of pre-context, I was always the guy who was very into personal finance. At the age of 18, without any parents' advice, I was the guy who was searching on YouTube how to make money. What's the fastest way that I can, accumulate XYZ? And I kind of stumbled naturally from there into some of those personal finance videos and things of that nature. So I was the first person to have a Roth IRA at 18, the only person in my group. I was the guy who was always yelling at my buddies to stop spending so much and invest some more. But that kind of stemmed into the business and why I wanted to learn a little bit like that or into that. So I went to Rutgers. I studied business management and leadership. I also did have a concentration in finance. And throughout my career at Rutgers, so the first 2 years, I actually started off as a regional manager for Jersey Mike's, so making sandwiches. But as the regional manager, it was pretty cool because I got to interact with a lot of people. So the majority of my position was dealing with some of the owners, dealing with some of the operators, and really having that one-on-one connection with a lot of the clientele. So I loved and adored that position. I loved the fact that I was able to interact with people and help people and touch lives in that manner, especially a company that was so charitable like Jersey Mike's. But I just figured that that wasn't going to be my long-term game. So come my junior year, I ended up getting an internship in private equity. So I was working as a portfolio management intern. And while I am grateful for the experience, I quickly learned that it was not the best fit for me. I love the analytical side of it. I love dealing with the numbers, but I was back office. So I wasn't interacting with people. I wasn't, having those conversations like I do now. And it was my senior year where I actually spoke to somebody who works at my current firm. He was a alum for my chapter, my fraternity chapter. And he had mentioned what he does here and how he works with clients. And it was within a snap, I realized that was what I wanted to do. To kind of intertwine those two worlds where I can deal and have that interpersonal relationship alongside do what I love, which is finance and help people, is how I knew I wanted to get into this. So I kind of dove straight in.
Yeah, I mean, I could share a similar experience. Like I worked at a yacht club through my college years. My first year that I was at Stony Brook, I really learned what it was like to interact with people and customers. And it sounds like the regional manager role really fit well with you and kind of helped you develop that love for working with people. And you're not the only one to say that love of personal finance translate into a career, right? Like that's what a lot of financial advisors find themselves. They're interested in that, helping their friends, and then they're like, wait, maybe I can do this as a career, which is a great experience. And you're also I've heard many stories about people that find themselves in different aspects of finance, and maybe they aren't really interested in the back office. They want to be involved with the people and having real
Yep.
relationships, and find yourself in this type of position exactly like you were when you're a senior. So I'm sure that there's a lot of students out there that may feel like they're a square in a circle peg, just trying to figure out where they fit. And it really can just take one conversation to change that, right? So what was it
Yep.
like connecting with someone like you said works at your firm now? He was an alumni. Is that something that you got through like an alumni like a fraternity list of alumni? Is that something you reached out on LinkedIn, or how did you kind of nurture that connection?
No, so that was actually just my natural market, right? And that's something that I do believe is huge. It's huge not only in this industry, but it's huge in life, right? In business, a lot of the work that you get, a lot of the things that you do is with working with who you know, right? Because people work with the people that they trust. So it was actually a barbecue that we had. It was an alumni thing where we went out and we were just chatting, and I just so happened to spark up a conversation with him, ask him what he does. And he told me, he's like, I work with people and I help them save for retirement. I help them plan out their kids' college tuitions or get them back on track. And it was right then and there, like I had said, where he kind of just put my two worlds together. And I was like, okay, I get to do that with people, speaking directly. And then on top of that, the finance aspect. Um, so I started asking him more questions. What is your day to day? And it really was all stuff that I adored, stuff that I could see myself actually doing, committing to. Because I looked around for all the things like you had mentioned, those back office positions, and I really felt like I was settling. And that's not something that a lot of people in, especially my situation, yours and people who are in college, people who are coming up to graduation, you don't want to be complacent, right? You don't want to get a job that you dread going to. The first 2 weeks are exciting and the next 20 years are miserable. You want something that you can see yourself doing for the long term. So when he brought this to me, I was truthfully blessed. I'm blessed to be in the position that I am now in the not only job but current state. But yeah, that's kind of how that situation unraveled.
Yeah, natural market is very important with developing these connections, and not everybody has one, right? It's sometimes they have to be built from scratch, and you leverage the connections that you have, and kind of that mentorship mindset of looking for somebody to kind of help you guide along that path. So would you consider the person you had a conversation with mentored you, or did you have a mentor, someone who inspired you during your career? And if so, did you have like a specific piece of advice that really stuck out to you?
No, absolutely. So when it comes to mentors, I'm not really the biggest believer that you only have one, right? I have peers who are a year or two older than me who are mentors. People who, like him, like my fraternity alumni, he was a mentor to me, but in different transitions of life, right? Um, so I always look for mentors. I'm looking for somebody who's where I want to be, somebody who knows something that I don't, and that I can, derive a set of skills from them. Obviously, it's an exchange. You have to have that relationship, but he was certainly one. I didn't really have one leading up to that interaction. He kind of took over within that event, and then the onboarding process. He was the go-to guy. But now I do, in the role I do, I work on with a very close-knit team, and my mentor now really instills in me simply just like the work ethic needed to survive in this business. Because to call it blatantly, right, this is most certainly one of the tougher industries you can be in, especially as a youthful individual, right? As you're going up that hill and gaining those clients, um, you know, building a brand and that trust, it's always an uphill battle. So he's somebody who really instills that work ethic. He forces, while nobody else does, he forces both myself and my team to come in every day. We always have to be on time. First one's in, last one's out. And he really, he pushes me to be the best version that I can. So definitely much needed. He's my go-to guy now, but um, I wish I did have somebody like him when I was, kind of lost. Didn't know what I was doing in college.
Yeah, it seems like that made a really big impact on you, and people in college can really benefit from a good mentor. I know I've had multiple, right? You said it's not really just one person. There's so many different levels and ages and different positions that can really provide you with valuable advice. So I'm glad that you have some people in your life that have been able to help you push in the right direction. And a lot of students that are in college right now are pursuing internships, right? And they're applying online, maybe they're networking. And I'm just curious, what was your internship process like? How did you go about finding those? And was it a hard opportunity to find those types of full-time and internship roles when you were in college?
Forget about it. To be very, very transparent, it was a brutal process. Quite honestly, it was very tough. I did rely myself on that networking facet because I found it just draining. I had sent out, there was a period of time where I had sent out over 200 applications and you don't even see a response. So I'm a big believer that one of the only ways, not the only, but um, one of the best ways rather to get your name out there and to get those positions that you're gunning for would be to network, right? So this is not only the traditional, going in on LinkedIn, searching for people who have some sort of base relationship, right? That can help, but that's not really that personal, right? It's people who are in your natural network and expanding that. So attending events, if you have something that really interests you, I know Rutgers, and I'm sure plenty of other universities, they have these mocktail nights or these conferences where they'll have recruiters come out. And that's one of those things that I was personally scared of, didn't take that great of an advantage of, and wish I did, right? To get yourself in front of somebody, to be able to have that conversation with somebody, and to build those networks naturally, so that way you have a genuine friend, not somebody that you spoke to over the internet, but somebody you can genuinely say you've met, who you might have exchanged phone numbers with, and continue that conversation. So I'm a big believer in networking. I believe the interpersonal side of it has to be done in person. So attending those events that are available to you and kind of just shooting from that realm, right? Um, that would be my best key advice. I'm not really the biggest fan of just the cold applying.
Yeah, cold applying is really tough. It's hard to find an opportunity, and in person really can be the difference maker, right? So, if you had like one networking tip that you can give, what would it be?
Absolutely, just be you. Like super cliche, ridiculously cliche, but people are ridiculously good at sniffing out, the stuff that's fake. Like when you send these almost, chat GPT like messages on LinkedIn, and you're just copying pasting the same thing to dozens upon dozens of people can sense that, and people aren't going to be responsive to something that cold, something that blatant, right? So try being yourself, add something that has a little bit of value, right? um, One of the best things that I like to do is, touch on the things that other people do well, right? From a very egotistical standpoint, people like to hear that, they're in a good position. So compliment them on the things that they're doing, do your research, search through what they've done and the experiences that they've had, and say, hey, listen, I see that you're doing a fantastic job at so and so company. I would just love to listen and hear what you think about it. I'm interested in that space. I want to see what you have to say. And more often than not, people are responsive. It definitely does come down to a numbers game, but the odds are more so in your favor.
Yeah, definitely a numbers game, but I think you nailed it right. With ChatGPT and other AI, different types of tools, it's very easy and very tempting to just cold outreach and kind of have a very generic message. Maybe you can have some small tweaks that you add, but being yourself and really going out and tailoring your message to people. If you really want to talk to this person, talk about what their recent accomplishments are. I think that's a great piece of advice and something that I know that I will definitely take into, my future networking endeavors, right? So I appreciate that advice a lot. And I did kind of want to ask about like career development. One of the first
Yeah,
things that you do in the industry is like gaining the SIE, the Series 7, the 65. And I know those are some
right off the bat.
certifications that you have. So, how did earning those certifications contribute to your career growth? And, would you recommend students pursuing those early compared to, or just waiting until you get into the industry?
No, absolutely. So obviously, besides the fact that they're essentials, right? So you definitely need the SIE. So that's first up, right? First at bat. And then from that, you can go ahead and take the 7 and the 66, the two that I have, right? Um, those are, I would say, a confidence booster, right? So one, they're a legal requirement, and then two, they're a confidence booster, right? It feels good to have that certification and to say that you earned something. It gives you a bit of credibility when you're talking to people, and it allows you to be a little bit more comfortable in that subject matter. But beyond that, it really does open up your eyes to all the things that you don't traditionally learn, right? Because those exams cover everything from A through Z about the sector. Maybe not too much in depth, but I guess broad topic. So you really do learn quite a bit. It is very, very educational. The recommendation I would give is for every student, if you're considering the space, or even if you're in finance, right, in general, and you're not looking to do something front facing like us, um, definitely get the SIE, because like I said, it opens your eyes up to a lot of things that you don't know. You're able to take it. So for the Series 6 and the 70, sorry, for the Series 7 and the 66, you're not eligible to take those. I believe you do have to be sponsored by a brokerage, right? But the SIE, you don't have to. So the SIE, it's roughly 4 to 6 weeks of studying. It's a very cheap exam, right? I believe the exam goes for under $100. It is a great credential that will allow you to stand out for recruiters. So for every student, whether you be a sophomore, junior, or senior, if you have a winter break or a summer break and you have 4 to 6 weeks, by all means, please go ahead, get that license, sacrifice the $100 now, and that will, you'll see, not only open up your mind to a bunch of different things, but open up yourself to a bunch of different recruiters.
One of the first things that people have said to me when I've applied for opportunities is, "Wow, you already have your SIE in college, and that's great."
Yep.
And I think that's one of the biggest ways to stand out, right? It's an easy way to get something that really can play dividends down the road. It's unique. Not too many college students have it, and it's practically pretty easy to get. I mean, not saying that it's a very easy test, but like you said, 4 to 6 weeks of studying, it's not that expensive. It's a great little winter or summer project for students that are looking to make themselves into a better candidate, be more competitive, and a great piece of advice that has been given to me, and I appreciate you sharing it for the listeners as well. It's very, very important. And like you said, the Series 7 and 66, those require some firm sponsorship. So those would take a little bit longer to get, but definitely recommend the SIE exam as well.
Absolutely. If you have the chance, please, please, please do that. I wish I did that.
Yeah, it's you're not the first one to tell me that the SIE would have been a huge help for them in college. So I'm glad that we can learn from some of your hindsight now. And that kind of brings me right into, I'm curious about your time at Prudential, right? So
Yeah.
what is your main responsibilities at Prudential, and what is your kind of day to day, week to week look like as of right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So the structure here is a little bit different from other firms. I know at other firms you might start off as like a junior advisor, work under somebody, or you might be a paraplanner, right? Here at Prudential, you essentially have your own book from the get-go. So in terms of what my day-to-day looks like, it is all over the place, right? To say the least, it is all over the place. So I have some days where I'll be, creating a plan for a client, and some days where I'll be solely doing back office work and filing applications and things of that nature. Um, I really am all over. I'm trying to do as much as I can in terms of like the holistic planning. So here at Prudential, we cover both the asset portion of it, right? So what places like Fidelity and whatnot would do. And we also do the protection side. So we do insurance as well. So balancing those two worlds is essentially my day to day. You do see a lot of back end work when it's not busy season. So when I'm not meeting with clients and things of that nature. So right now, given the holidays and stuff like that, filing applications, amending some documents, and helping clients with beneficiary changes and things of that nature. But for the majority of it, it is all over. What the average day looks like is I'd have 2 or 3 meetings with either potential clients or current clients, doing either reviews or giving some proposed illustrations. Sending a lot of follow-ups, so a lot of emails, and then, like I said, that busy work on the back end, which is the apps.
Yeah, and something I think about, to go back to the beginning when we talked about that love of personal finance and helping people. So when someone hears about like the task of a financial advisor, and you hear back office work, and you may come to the conclusion like, oh, I don't want to do that. I just want to help people. So how does a lot of the like how does the career really tie in with the love of personal finance, right? So like for someone that's maybe in high school or beginning of college right now, and they're like, oh, I love this, but I don't really like the idea of like doing all the paperwork and stuff like that. So like, how do you get over that hurdle and still understand that you're able to better help people on the personal finance side, and still have these certain type of tasks that may be undesirable to somebody
Yeah,
that's looking to just help people?
yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, the most perfect ideal world would be you only meet with people give your advice, and never do a single thing, right? But in reality, a lot of times people need certain things, right? People need some help in terms of their asset allocation, and you have to go through the files, you have to review what they have in their 401k, read their statements, and see, what they need. Or maybe sometimes they need investments, right? And they need help setting that up. They don't know how to do it on their own. They don't know what to choose and how to manage that. So while yes, there's going to be times in which you have that back office work, we'll call it. Um, the way in which I get over it is by knowing that through this is what I really love, right? So I have to do it regardless, but from this, my client is going to be in a better position. So that kind of resonates with me. That's what makes me, you know, able to type so much and send so many emails. Um, you have to do some of the, I guess, dirty work in order to fully help somebody.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's just part of the game, something that you have to do. And if you take that contribution type of mindset that you're helping others, kind of put your own wants and that type of thing aside and be like, oh, I can do all this paperwork and it can do kind of the boring stuff because I'm able to help people. I think that's a great mindset to have. A question I have then is, where do you envision your career going in the next 5 to 10 years? And what are your biggest aspirations going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think number one on my bucket list is that CFP, right? I think that's what a lot of people in this industry desire. I actually have a meeting on Monday regarding the next steps in that process, but that does require the 2 years, 3 years in the industry itself. So it's a bit of a time game. But again, kind of going back to the other licenses, right? That gives you essentially two things, just what the Series 7 and 66 did. It gives you not only the knowledge that you learn throughout that course and that exam, but that also gives you that extra layer of credibility, not only externally to the clients, but also internally, right? You get that sense of confidence, you get that boost in terms of the subject matter that you're discussing. So for me, within the 2 year realm, I see myself getting that CFP. And then after that, I truthfully do see both myself and my team working as a DBA, so doing business as somebody other than Prudential, right? So we've already had conversations and discussions regarding locations and what the possible names could be, but ideally we have a storefront in which we can have our centralized location and helping people within that immediate area.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a great plan. CFP is something I look to get myself. It's a great way. I think you nailed a piece of it that's not necessarily thought about is the internal confidence, right? Of once you get that certification, you're like, oh, I really have more confidence in my ability to provide the services that I'm trying to provide for people. And it's a great kind of internal motivating factor. Outside of the external factor, I think the fiduciary status is really important for people nowadays in the financial planning industry. The CFP is kind of like the holy grail right now. Something
Yeah.
like, like I said, definitely want to get myself. So I'm glad that you guys have a plan going forward. And, having your own storefront is definitely a really cool dream as well. And something that, hopefully down the road that I can do. So I'm excited to see where that goes in the future. And I'm sure that it's going to be really, really awesome.
Fingers are crossed.
Yeah. Awesome. And, you know, for students that are in college right now, what would be like an actionable step that they can take, maybe over Christmas break or, even just today to start their journey into financial advising?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would definitely go back to two things, right? So first step would be knowledge based. So if you don't have the SIE, that would be your first step, right? So you're learning exactly what you're going to be learning in the industry. So you're learning about equities and bonds and how different things function with one another. So um, that would be my first step. So if you don't have that license, you're planning out a time in which you can take that exam, right? So you're allocating 4 to 6 weeks for studying. You're gathering that material, and you've saved up $100 so that you can go ahead, sign up, and take that exam. So that's step number one. Number two, if you don't have that timeline, right? If you don't have those 4 to 6 weeks, I would definitely start working on my network, right? I would start looking at different places in which I could attend, right? Different events. Um, maybe doing that LinkedIn searching and seeing who within my immediate network might be, relative to this industry, and starting to spark up some conversations, right? That's the best thing that you could do. Introduce yourself to people, have that conversation of who you are, what you want to do, and just listen, right? Listen to what they have to say, what their experience has been like, and what they have to offer. And going from that, I really do see that, a few weeks of putting in the time and the effort, you could see something transformative come, whether it be the next semester or the next year, or whatever it may look like for your situation.
Yeah, that's a great advice. I think the SIE is a great opportunity for students, and the networking piece can be really, really important, really beneficial. I found a lot of benefit from really dialing in on it and having these conversations, approaching them with curiosity. That's really what took me from just being kind of like, I want to go into this industry, didn't really know what to do, to getting internships, having conversations, finding out about key things like the SIE exam, to really jumpstart my journey into the industry. So, it's
Yeah.
great advice. I really appreciate that. And, something I do want to ask is, so let's say a student reached out to you, right? Like, what is something that a student can say that would, 100% make you willing to have a conversation with them, compared to something, what's something that a student would say that made you not want to have a conversation with them at all? Like, can you compare the difference between those two types of things?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So funny you ask. I've actually just had this interaction, this ordeal. So in terms of the pros, right? Somebody reached out to me and said, "Hey, listen, I'm currently so and so in so and so university, and I see that you're working at Prudential. I've done my research. I love what Prudential has to offer, and I would love to be in the same exact position that you're in, right? I see that you're doing great. I would love to, if you're available, right? Not being pushy, if you're available, just set up 5 to 10 minutes where I can just, hear about what things are like over there." And that person got a phone call. Versus the other, and I won't go too much in depth as to what it is, but it's exactly what I had mentioned previously, where it's very scripted. It's a little bit forceful, saying things like, "Let me know when we could speak," or "Can I call you?" Or not wording this properly, but be generous, be somebody who is accepting of other people's times. People have schedules, I have schedules, and I can't always, cater myself to other people. But if I see that you're genuinely willing to learn and somebody who has good intent, a good heart, I'll do my due diligence. I'll go ahead and try my best to allocate some time to sharing my knowledge with other people. Right? That's essentially all I want to do. That's the industry that I'm in. So be somebody who is more open, somebody who's more inviting, and more often than not, like I said, it is a numbers game, but more often than not, you will get somebody who's receptive.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it perfectly there. Just, if you go in being like, I can meet at this time, or, let me know when we can
There you go.
talk.
Those are the words I'm looking for.
Yeah, it's that's tough, right? Nobody wants to feel like they're being forced into a conversation. But if you feel like, I think I found the best success, and it kind of correlates to what you say, just kind of being open and be like, if you have time, like, please, I'd be more than willing to, whatever time you can give me, just a few minutes to ask some questions and hear about it. Just coming from a real place of curiosity. Is the best way to do it, and I'm sure that the student that took their time to fully ask their question, explain their background and how much they're interested in what you're doing, that type of person is going to get an opportunity to at least have a conversation. And you never know down the road, right? So I believe that you've been generous enough to come on and give me the time to have this conversations. Obviously, having a conversation with someone, the student is not in your, away from what you're doing. So I do appreciate you coming on here too. It's a lot. I hope a lot of students listen to this and can hear the type of advice that you're giving, because it's something that I wish I knew when I was a freshman or a sophomore. It would have saved me a ton of time. So I really do appreciate you kind of giving us a little bit of an action step, types of ideas from a networking standpoint and from an industry standpoint.
Oh, absolutely. It's my pleasure. So, main takeaways for any student who's listening, right? Number one, get that licensing, get those credentials, right? So, the SIE, beautiful place to start. Number two, working on the networking. And then, sorry to chime in again, but number three, I don't think I touched on this, which is self education, right? So that's something that I currently do, and that's what every advisor does when they're starting off. So beyond those exams, start reading, start reading the Wall Street Journal, start reading these articles online, go to your local library. I know those are outdated and ancient, but go to your library, pick up some books regarding personal investing or personal finance, and start learning, because this industry is never ending in terms of, adaptments, things that change within, tax code or investments. So take as much knowledge as you can, and you're going to be a weapon when it comes to the actual workforce.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice and something that I've tried to learn. And, what a question is then like, what's kind of your favorite book, your go-to you would points to for someone to read?
Starting off, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I
Great
believe
one.
Dale Carnegie.
Yes, Dale Carnegie.
Fantastic. Yeah, fantastic book right there.
Yeah, I really am a big believer in the psychological portion of this career. It's very much driven on relationships and being able to have conversations and communicate effectively. Something that I work on every day, and everyone in this industry really is a good communicator and has worked on that to really be able to have these type of relationships. So, how to win friends and influence people is just like he said, one of the first books I read when I started to really take this seriously. And one of those that it was written in the early 1900s and it's still
Yep.
talked about till this day. That's how influential it is. An incredible book. And I know Christmas is only a couple days away, but maybe Santa can put that on some of the people's, in their stockings or something like that. That'd be a great one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Brendan, I can't thank you enough for coming on here today and sharing some advice with me and some of the students that are listening. It's been a pleasure to have this conversation. And if there's anything you want to shout out social media wise or anything on that end, so we'd be happy to kind of hear about it.
No, I appreciate it. No shout outs. I'm not that kind of guy. I'm not going to plug anything, right? You could feel free, if there's any students in the area, you could feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. It's Brandon Hernandez. I am the guy who works at Prudential. Like I had mentioned in this podcast, right? If you reach out to me and you have genuine interest and you want to learn about this career, I'd be more than willing to go ahead and share some of my time with you. So beyond that, Ryan, I really do appreciate your time. I appreciate you having me here, and hopefully at least one person can take away something. So.
Yeah, that's the goal. I mean, if nobody takes away anything, at least I did, because I know I certainly learned a lot from this conversation. So, Brandon, thank you so much for coming on, and I really appreciate it.
Of course, Ryan. You take care.